Hello, this is Mr. D, Guild Daddy D, Daddy D, or just D, whichever you prefer. I'm coming at you today with a breakdown on life skilling. I've had a few people in the guild, new and old, ask me about favorite spots, techniques, favorite classes, differences on income for the different life skills. So I figured, you know what? If people in my guild are asking, then that means there's people out there that don't know. So we're going to make a video and go really in depth. We're going to start off with like a 50,000 foot view of the different life skills, and then we'll dive into really specifics. So buckle up. Here we go. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the comments. I would love it if you subscribe, would love it if you like, and would love it if you share the video. So here we go. Starting with life skills. When you're in the game, life skills, if you hit P, they are right here in your P menu. You can see them: gathering, fishing, hunting, cooking, alchemy, processing, training, trading, farming, selling, and bartering. These are more or less your supplement PvE skills. PvE usually refers to mobs. I consider life skilling a sort of PvE because let's face it, you go and catch a fish, you chop down a log, you are versing your environment. So you may or may not agree, but life skilling to me is a sort of a PvE. So if you go to your life skill tab here on your P menu, this is where it gives you a breakdown of all your life skills, where you're going to see your mastery listed out. And this is also where you're going to be able to hover over your life skills to see where you're at as far as getting buffs for certain things. For instance, if I'm lumbering here, I see that I have a drop rate of 213.92. We'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about equipment and mastery. First thing I'm going to say is that class does matter. I use my Shy for a lot of my life skilling, and the reason I do, specifically Alchemy and Gathering, is because she has passives for Gathering and Alchemy. So for instance, when I use my Shy for Gathering, I get Gathering XP plus 1%, and I also get Combat XP plus 300%. When I use her for Alchemy, same thing, 1 in 300. She also has a higher weight limit inherent in the class. So, for those of you who don't know, when you do life skilling, you also get combat XP. You get a lot more life experience than combat XP, but you do get both. So that 300% bonus is wonderful if you want to level up the class as well as just do life skilling and you don't want to go kill the same mobs in a circle for hours upon hours upon hours. It's not one for one at all. I haven't calculated it out. You're going to get a lot more life XP than you are combat XP, but that 300% definitely helps. So class does matter in that respect. Otherwise, every class in the game can do every life skill. There's no limit there. So when we're talking about life skilling, no life skiller would be complete without your gear. So for gear, you're gonna want, there's Manos clothes. There's also blue and green grade life clothes, and you can find those by if you open up your marketplace and you go to armor and you go to functional clothes, right? So the Manos clothes are gonna be on top. Then you're gonna have your blue grade life skill clothes. And then below that, you're going to have your greens. Legias, for those of you who are just starting the game, you can go to Legia Farms, which is up by Velia, and buy these for silver from the node manager. And these are very easy to enhance, and these are your gateway into life skilling. If you do have the funds, though, and you're going to spend some time, I highly recommend getting your Manos clothes. They have Manos clothes for everything. I've got alchemy clothes on me, and I'm wearing my gathering clothes. The second thing you're going to want to look at is your accessories. Currently, best in slot is Preoni or Preone. Um, when you're looking at life skill accessories, once again, go to your life skill. They don't have a functional accessory section, so they're all going to be mixed up. But Manos rings are usually right there when you open it up. If you scroll down, you have the Jeranoa rings, which are life skill, and if you see item effect right there, life experience plus life mastery, what we're really going after is the mastery. And then I believe, yeah, the Logia ring is also a green accessory that's your entry level for life skill. Once again, you could buy that at Logia Farms. When you get to having Tet Manos, you can trade them for Tri Preoni rings, or you can enhance the Preons yourself. I'll get a little bit into that when we're talking about hunting, but as far as best in slot, you're going to want to try to mainline into Manos and then Preons, just to increase that mastery. It does make a difference. For instance, with hunting, having a higher level mastery gives you better grade resources, as well as it can actually duplicate your resources, similar to how the hedgehog does with gathering, and I'll cover the hedgehog in 1 second. So as far as equipment goes, you also have, we'll cover your basic life skill tools. If you look in your equipment screen here, you click down here to life, and these are going to be your life skill tools. These come in green, blue, gold, and red grade, Manos being the best in slot. And you can do these one of two ways. You can actually craft them yourself by hitting F2 in game, going to crafting notes, and you can, let's say for instance you want to make a Manos pickaxe. You type in here and it says, okay, right here, you can take 15 metal solvent, 50 magical shards, 5 Manos stones, and 1 magical pickaxe, and combine them to make them into a Manos pickaxe, and then you'll have to enhance it yourself. To be fair, with how prevalent silver is in the game right now, I would just highly recommend pre-ordering them. Even if you pre-order prize or duos or tries. Like duos are 700, well, let's call it 800 million. Tries are 1 billion. Tets are 2, maybe 3 billion. Pens, they get a little pricey. You're talking 18 billion. I've seen them as high as 25 billion. So even if you get yourself a good set of duos or tries, having them is so much better than anything else, because you get, for instance, we're going to look at the butchering knife, right? You get the gathering item drop rate plus 30%. That's huge when you're gathering. That's going to give you all of your silver. It's going to give you your sharps, your concentrateds, everything that you're going to get in addition to the resources. It's also going to give you the mastery. If you look at like butchering right here, with a higher mastery, I get increased quantity and increased drop rate of everything. So mastery is really the key, more so I would even say than level. Mastery is key when life skilling. Now, some of you might say, okay, what mastery should I be aiming for? If you're just starting in life skilling, whatever you got, right? I would say if you're just starting with life skilling, concentrate on leveling up until you get to like Master 1. Once you get to Master, you can start, and, for instance, right here, I have the silvered embroidered alchemy clothes because they give the alchemy experience plus 25%. I still have those from when I was power leveling my alchemy. So when you're first starting out, you can get a set of silver embroidered clothes for whatever life skill you have, just to give you that shot in the arm with XP. But when you get to Master 1, you really should start concentrating on just Mastery. And you're going to get those from your accessories. I mean, there's nothing wrong with running a Logia set, all green set for life skilling, while you're getting there, right? Everybody starts somewhere. But just know as you go, your Mastery is going to make a huge difference. Some of the other the life skill tools I'd like to cover are fishing rods and floats and harpoons. They go in these slots. There are craftable ones for all of them, or you could just buy them off the market. I've covered that in my fishing video. Also, we have the Manos Flask, which you can also purchase off the market or make yourself. That is for alchemy. And there's also a ladle that goes here for cooking. So you're going to eventually want all of them. I have a ladle on a different tune because I was doing some cooking the other day. But as far as equipment goes, there's a few other things to consider. If you do swipe, which, let's face it, sometimes you're like, okay, I really, I need something. I would recommend the Curious Gathering clothes if you're going to go with the Shy. The outfit gives you an additional 10% gathering XP, and it looks really nice. I mean, I like it. The other thing is, let's see, yes, if I have a Patriglio's bag on, we'll open it up. Is it the Whimsical Alchemist? Yes, Whimsical Alchemist also will help you power level your alchemy. Alchemy can be one of those things, cooking and alchemy can be one of those things where it just seems like it takes forever to level up. But then once you get to Master 1 or even Guru 1, you're just like, whew, then it seems to go fast. So there are items in the Pearl Shop, specific outfits and stuff that will give you buffs for XP and make your grind a little less slow. Also, There's all sorts of spirit stones that go in your middle slot. Stella spirit stones, I mean, as you can see, I've got 5 in my inventory and then 1 equipped. We get those out of seasons. They're going to give you, you know, weight limit, life skill mastery. They're going to give you success rates and cooking time reductions, gathering item drop rates. Those are always good to have. There's also, do I have it on this tune? No, there is also, I don't remember where I have it, but there's a red stone that goes in the middle that I forgive the name right now. I think it's something called tree stone. Maybe not. No, I don't remember the name of it, but it's a stone. Maybe it's a tree int. Yeah, tree int's tier. Here we go. So that right there, you can find that. There's a quest line to get that. And you can use that to give your life experience plus 30% and your gathering item drop rate plus 10%. Actually, it says Riley has it. Where is it? Oh, it's right there. Okay. So these stones are repairable. As you can see, my durability is down to like 11 out of 150. You can actually recharge that with your, let's see, mystical powder, which, gosh, my storage is just a hot mess. It's somewhere in here. You can repair it. It says, if you go down here to, let's see, recharge alchemy stone, throw that in there. You put it right here and you hit recharge and it'll go. I actually might have it in my marketplace just to show you guys. Sometimes I just throw stuff in here to store it. I currently don't have any. Okay, but yeah, it's the same stuff used for Vel's Heart and stuff like that. You can recharge that stone. So if you're leveling, it might behoove you to have that equipped. Do the quest line to do it. Just search on the internet, BDO Treants tier, and you can get that. For equipment, I think one of the last things we'll cover is artifacts and light stones. Right now, I just threw gathering item drop rates just to kind of throw them on there. There's all sorts of ones for life skilling. They give you life skill mastery, so if you're doing something that requires more mastery, life experience, there's ones that give you gathering mastery, farming, trading, training, cooking, hunting, all this stuff, right? There are best in slot combos, right? The best in slot combos for certain life skills. For instance, on hunting, I believe there's one that's something of the claw. In fact, we could switch to that tune while I'm talking. There's artifacts and light stones that you're going to want to find for different, they give you buffs for sailing, give you buffs for bartering. The easiest way for you to figure this out is at first you're going to just get a whole bunch of life XP artifacts and you're not going to have the life skill specific ones going on. But as you gather, as you trade, as you sail, as you sea monster hunt or hunt, you'll eventually get the specific artifacts for the specific life skills, like hunting artifacts or whatnot for your hunter. So the one I have is Canine Tooth. So if you look right here, this gives crit hit rate, which is huge for hunting, hunting XP, hunting mastery, and increases my attack speed and critical hit. So for me, that would be my best in slot for hunting. So as you do different life skills and as you determine which life skills you want to do, speaking of which, there's the Manos hunting bag. I forgot to mention that earlier for hunting. You're going to want to really get on the internet and search, BDO, artifact, and lightstone combos. And on their little charts, you can just hunt for cooking, alchemy, trading, sailing, and you'll see all of them that come up for that specific light skill or life skill, and then pick which one actually works for you. Like for instance, Canine Tooth. That's my personal favorite for hunting. You might look and see there might be one that gives you hunting XP or hunting mastery plus 50, right? Whatever you need to do, but there are what most people would consider best in slots for certain life skills. So as you dive deeper into life skill, you're going to want to actually search that out and take some time to research it. While I'm here, I'll also cover, if you haven't done your CAFRS journals yet, the CAFRS Journal of Nature, there's 3 of them. There's one that gives 10% combat XP, one that gives you 10% contribution experience, and one that gives you 10% life XP. Highly recommend grabbing that. It goes in your slot here, and you can put that on any toon. It's a family item. So you just swap it from toon to toon to toon, and whichever one you're life skilling with, just have that equipped. Okay, as we switch back to our character, we covered class, we covered mastery, we covered equipment, we covered Manos tools. So the next thing I want to talk about is the minigame button. When the game loads in here, when you hit P and you go to your life skill tab, there's going to be a little button on the top left that activates the minigame. When there's a quest line that you have to do to unlock that, and I don't remember it being very difficult, but it's been a while since I did it. Let's see. And it's right here. You'll see it right next to the gathering, and it says higher levels increase chance to not consume. Oh, that's for gathering. Green Artisan on. Gathering, except for water scooping, has a set probability to initiate a minigame. When you succeed in the minigame, you spend additional energy and obtain large amounts of the resources. So Green Artisan is what you're going to want to look up, and you're going to want to make sure you get that done ASAP. What that does is when you're lumbering, and if you activate the mini game, then instead of getting maybe 5 or 10 logs, you actually will get more like 100 or 150. So, and the mini game works with any gathering. You can get it with gathering weeds, you can get it for logging, you can get it for mining, etc., etc., etc. So look that up on the internet. It is called Green Artisan, and make sure that you do the quest line to unlock that so you can have it. So diving right into the life skills, let's talk about gathering first. Gathering is, you can see right here, I have an overall Master 17, overall mastery here, but then it's broken up into all these different categories. Gathering is one of the easiest life skills in Black Desert Online. You literally walk up to something and you could do it barehanded and just pick weeds or pick a shrub, or, you know, all the life skills, you don't even have to have tools to do them. You just, as your mastery gets higher, you get more and more items from them. So talking about gathering is probably one of the most profitable life skills in the game. There are some people that, because of what they do and how high their mastery is, you can make upwards of 1 billion silver an hour, right? Which is right up there with the top grinders and the top PvEers. When you're gathering, your gathering level influences the other life skills here. And when you're talking about these life skills here, like for instance, hoe gathering. Hoe gathering is you just find weeds, right? And I mean, if you want, we'll run outside real quick. Weeds are everywhere. Plants are everywhere. Obviously, these are, you know, you just run around until you find a weed. And of course, you know, there's none around here right now. But you just run through the grass until you get an interactable. Yeah, they're everywhere, but then D can't find them. There are certain areas in the map, which I will cover here in a second, where they are literally everywhere on the ground. Okay, here we go. So wild herb. It says hoe gathering or barehanded. So hoe gathering, I would hit F5, but you can also do it barehanded and just hit R. That's all you do, and you're waiting, you're waiting, you're waiting. Boom, and I got all that stuff. So hit R, that goes in my inventory. Now, one of the things you need to be aware when you're life skilling are 2 things. Your Agris Fever does affect your items. When you have that active, you will actually get an increase in the base material. So if you're collecting a pine tree, you'll get more pine logs. You won't get more logs. If you're doing a birch tree, you'll get more birch lumber. If you're doing wild herbs, you'll get more wild herbs. The other thing that affects what you get is the hedgehog. The hedgehog is something that I'm going to highly recommend for anybody who's going to spend any time life skilling, because the hedgehog gives you the ability to get double drops. So as your hedgehog gets to a higher tier, mine's tier 4, you get an increased chance to get double of everything you gather. So there's a chance that you go to a tree, you chop it down, you'll see it where you'll just have duplicate everything. Like this one, not so much. No, so I got wild grass here, but they're not the same amount, so the hedgehog didn't proc. Also got a whole bunch of fire flake flower seeds. But so between the hedgehog and the Agris fever, those are kind of, the more you life skill, the more you're absolutely going to need a hedgehog, and that's something that can be gotten via the Pearl Shop or by referring people to the game. I believe that's still a way. As far as gathering goes, weeds and herbs, the best place to go for that is when you look at the map over here. Bear's going to be right here, and it's going to be south of Calpheon. You follow the river, you can hit Bear. And along the south side of the river, along this path right here, there is weeds that look like big fern plants on the ground. Just there's a gazillion of them. Go over there. That's where you want to level up your gathering. You're just going to go over there and you're going to collect all the weeds. And if you're planning on doing alchemy in the future, save all the weeds. If you're not, you could sell them, whatever. You can also use them to make Tenacious Origin of Life right here, which gives you an increase in alchemy experience as you make them. That's just, I believe it's like 25 or 50 of everything. You can use the crafting notes to find those. And those just sell to a vendor for 50,000. But definitely want to go to Bear. When you go to a tree, as you can see right here, I can either chop it down or fluid collect. Real quick, lumbering, logs are fantastic. They're used for making boats and all sorts of equipment. You can process it in your L menu with chopping into usable scantling or standardized timber squares, which there are also always millions of pre-orders for. So if you're looking for just a solid way to make some money, you can always chop the lumber. Fluid collecting saps are huge in alchemy, but also sap collecting is one of the best ways to get sharps when it comes to basic life skills. Before we get to hunting and stuff, that is kind of like the way. So if you want to get a bunch of sharps, get yourself a fluid collector or a sap sucker, and when you get to the tree though, you're going to want to hit F5 to switch it. And you'll see whichever one goes on your R menu is which one you'll be doing. So for trees and saps, there are a lot of people that like to go down to Trent, once again down here below Calpheon. There's a very high density of trees. I am lazy, so I like to just go over here to Castle Runes. There's a whole bunch of trees along the road here, and usually if I start right here and go down to this bandit here and circle back around, the trees have respawned by the time I get back to here, and I'm not that far away from town. But it also really depends on what kind of lumber you're looking for. If you're looking to craft with specific types of lumber, then you're going to want to find where those trees are. If you're just looking for logs like I am, or sap, sap will be specific. Some of the more rare saps are over here in Medaya, up here by Elric Shrine, or even out here past Bandits in Iris Canyon. So certain recipes require certain saps, and it's literally just walking up to the tree, going to your fluid collector, and hitting R. So for mining is the same thing. You find mining, you're going to find a rock sticking out of the ground like this, and you're going to want to hit R. You get a whole bunch of things like gemstones and rough stone. Rough stone is a wonderful crafting material that's always in demand. But if you want a good place to power level mining, you're going to want to go out here to Pilgrim's Haven. So to get to Pilgrim's Haven, you run east of Sandgrain Bazaar. You run along the south side of this cliff, and you'll see a ramp right about here that you can run up and just go north by northwest, and you'll see Pilgrim's Haven. It kind of looks like a desert cemetery, and you're going to see a whole bunch of piles of rocks in little pyramids. And every one of the rocks in those little pyramids are mineable rocks. And while we're talking, I actually have a tune out there so I can show you what I'm talking about. Mining is a great way to make money. But also, one of the things that I like about mining is that that's how I get silver. Silver is not really used in a lot of aspects of the game. Neither is gold. I mean, there are certain uses, but it's not super high in demand. But I use silver to make the yellow bottles for scooping water. The yellow bottles a lot of people like to buy and use because they decrease the water scooping time. So I'm out here at Pilgrim's Haven, and as you can see, these piles of rocks right here, like literally, if I move my camera, there's just every one of those rocks is mineable. And if you jump up on top, there's like 5 or 6 right here from the top. So this is a great place to come. There's a few pyramids here. There's a few over here to power level mining, and you're going to get a ton of stuff. Your inventory is going to be full, and every time you mine, you're just going to get, anywhere between 6 and 12 different types of items. So once again, the silver is used to make bottles right here, shining empty bottles. A lot of people buy these. Now, yes, they're only worth 20,000, or 22,000, but they make it super easy to do very large guild missions. So if you're one of those people that wants to help your guild, you can go to life skills and go to extra large, and you go extra large bottle of river water, 5,000. So you just grab, a couple thousand of those yellow bottles, and you turn around, you go to a river and just start scooping. So that's why I like to come out here. I also like to get the black stones and things like that. And, the rough stone is used for a lot of crafting. You can make your own alchemy and cooking utensils and things like that. So mining is good money. By far, though, the weeds and the herbs are the top money for gathering. But, yeah. So going back to talking about butchering. Butchering goes hand in hand with hunting. Now, hunting I'll cover here in detail in a little while, but butchering is tied to gathering, so we'll cover it here. You need your butchering knife, that's number one, and when you hunt something, you shoot it with your hunting rifle, and then when you butcher it, you get hunting XP. You also get a small amount of butchering, gathering XP. So, when you're hunting, there's a deer right here. We'll shoot him. Poor little thing. Okay, and when you're butchering, you hit R. And I'm not worried about equipping anything right now. So you're going to get hunting XP. You're going to get hides, bloods, meats, and wild sparks. Most of the life skills give you these little, I call them tchotchkes, that you turn in for contribution XP and hunting XP, or gem fragments, or ferocious beach pals, whatever you want. Cooking gives you witch's delicacy. Alchemy gives you mysterious catalyst. Hunting gives you wild spark. And then, let's see here. I'll name the other ones. Give me 1 second because I collect them over here. Fishing gives you the discarded glass bottles. Gathering gives you blush leaves. So those are all things, and I usually just turn them in for CP and the life skill experience, just because I've got a lot of the other materials. But that's what you'll get when you're gathering or hunting or whatnot. What's nice about the hunting one, the wild sparks, is if you do need horse stuff or spirit pouch of ferocious beast, or you need black gem fragments to enhance your Legia gear, you can get that through either hunting or that. So butchering, the best thing I could tell you about the butchering is the blood and the meats are very valuable. Specifically, last year I want to say lion meat was huge because of the King of Jungle hamburgers. And people were making upwards of 5, 6, 700 million an hour just hunting lions. I don't know if that's still a thing. I know King of Jungle hamburgers, which are used to make Valencia meals, are still in demand. I just don't know if it's so much of a contested location anymore. So for butchering, though, you could literally butcher anything. If you shoot a deer, you can butcher that. You can go up to Lynch Farm here and get sheep's meat or whatever. Meat is used for cooking, obviously, and it's very high demand because a lot of people just don't like taking the time to go do it. Last but not least, tanning. Tanning, if we look at this here, tanning is going to be a little bit more possibly valuable going forward with the changes coming from Pearl Abyss for the furniture. I don't know how it's going to affect it, but right now it's kind of one of those things where you're going to get your leather, fur, or feathers probably by tanning the Navarn Steppe people for your forever pots. You're also going to get things like deep blue hoofroot, possibly fire horns, possibly. You're going to get a few enhancement materials, blackstones, sometimes sharps, but I feel like tanning really isn't a wise investment of your time if you're trying to make money life skilling. But there are some people that do it, and those of you who do it, that you might know a secret where you make a ton of money. I'm not giving away the farm here, so if you want to try it, by all means. I've got more than enough hides that I could ever use, just because there's nothing to do with a lot of them in the game. So going down to the next life skill on my list is fishing. I've got an in-depth fishing video on my channel here, but fishing is for AFK silver, really. I mean, you could do a few things while you're AFK. You can log off, you can horse train, you can combat train on a scarecrow, or you can AFK fish. You can also semi-AFK cooking and alchemy, but as far as it goes now, most people are choosing to do AFK fishing. You have the potential to make comfortably $1.5 billion for a 10 to 12 hour overnight, up to 8 to 10 billion for a 12-hour overnight, which means that's anywhere from 100 million an hour minimum to a 500 million per hour maximum. I've not heard of anybody making more than 8 bill in one overnight. I personally have made 8 bill in one overnight by getting 2 tripods and a bunch of other reds in Altanova, so that's why I'm comfortable saying you can make up to that. That's happened once. It's not very often. More often than not, I average about $1.5 billion to 2 billion in an overnight session. So that's a good passive way to just pad your wallet. You do that every night for 30 days, and now you have pen money. So moving on to we'll go to the next one on the list, hunting. As you saw, I killed a deer earlier. I can talk. And one of the things that you're going to need for hunting is a matchlock. So there's a green, a blue, and a gold matchlock, and then there's a master matchlock. I think there's 2 golds. There's sniper and master. There are 2 different types of hunting. There are sniper hunters that you do up in Land of Morning and Light, and then regular matchlock hunting, which you could do. There's hunting zones down in Black Desert. I prefer Narcion because it's easy and I'm lazy. That's where you hunt rhinos and shadow lions. There are other places you can hunt. If you go online and you want a very in-depth hunting guide, I'm sure they exist. I'm sure in the future I might even want to cover it. But for now, you just need a hunting rifle. You can also rent a matchlock right here, the Beginner's Hunter's Matchlock. I think you can rent it from the farm south of Velia. Let's see. I want to say it's in Balanos Forest. That you could talk to the node manager and she will rent you a beginner matchlock, and then she'll have you running around in the forest here shooting at beehives up in trees and killing them, and that's kind of like the beginner of hunting. So, but you definitely need a matchlock. And then really the only other thing you need is a butchering knife and or tanning knife. You're going to want the hunting bag. You can make that. And then you just walk up, you right click to reload your gun. Down on the bottom of the screen here, you're going to see a reload counter. And when you get 2 or 3 shots, then you just left click and you shoot. The other thing with hunting I'll cover is if you hit Q, you crouch down, that increases the distance that you can shoot your gun. So that's something to consider. Now with hunting, I like doing hunting because it's where you can get your black gems. So for all of your enhancing of your life skills, you're going to have black gem fragments, which are blue versions of black gems. You're going to have black gems, and then you're going to get concentrated magical black gems. When you're talking about getting these as drops with hunting, you're only going to get the concentrated magical black gems when your mastery gets high enough to get them. I believe it's like you don't start getting them until 1500 mastery. Um, but if you can start getting those to drop, as well as if you looked in my hunter's inventory, you have some of these stuffed lion's heads. You see they're worth 18 million a piece. You can actually craft these into higher grade stuffed furniture. I'll see if I have any in the marketplace. Yeah, like for instance, here's a master stuffed gray wolf head. These are the things that get buffs in people's houses. I actually have a master stuffed grass rhino head too. Coming in the future, in the next month or so, you're going to be able to turn these furniture items into scrolls that are sellable on the market. So hunting has the potential to become a very lucrative life skill going forward. But even if nothing else changes, I still average 550 to 650 million per hour hunting. It's a very relaxed, very chilled, whole different game experience. So if you want to take a break from grinding and you want to try a life skill that's, different, hunting might be the way to go. Just throw on some music and you go. It's not really fast paced. I would highly recommend before you go to the higher level hunting places, though, having your forever pot because the animals do attack you when you attack them. So having the forever pot, you won't have to worry about popping any, health elixirs or anything or self heals. So hunting is one of those things, like I said, 500, 600 million per hour. I've heard most people who sniper hunt in Land of the Morning Light, which I will show on the map real quick, is going to be just the other side of Sangoon. Right here, you'll see sniper hunting region. I've heard that they make about $1 billion to $1.5 billion per hour. I have not sniper hunted yet, so that's something that, if you want to try it, maybe you guys could let me know what you guys are making. So the next two I'll lump together, cooking and alchemy. Cooking and alchemy are what a lot of people do in this game for dailies. When you turn in your daily cooking or alchemy boxes, disregard the hoarding environment in my manner here. Um, most people won't buy their meals off the market. Most people will actually cook them or make them themselves. For the cooking and medicine boxes, once again, best resource in the game is hit F2, go to crafting notes. You could just type in, let's say, guru cook, right? Oh, okay. So maybe we're going to have to do cooking. Yeah, right here. Guru's cooking box. It'll tell you what you need to make a Guru's cooking box. I usually make Balanos meals, which I don't even see it listed, but they are down here somewhere. Yeah, right here, special Balanos meals, and your heavy duty packing cord. So that right there is kind of like, I covered it on my dailies what to do video, is turning your boxes. This is why most people cook. Um, Depending on recipes, and you can use that F2 menu, there's also many resources on the internet, is this can be very competitive. For instance, because I already mentioned it before, in years past, lion meat was huge, and that was because of the King of Jungle hamburger. So the King of Jungle hamburger, you can cook these. They make, they're worth 53,000 a piece, 54,000, and literally 500 million trades. Like, people buy these all the time. Let's just, while we're here, let's type in lions. Let's type meat. Nope, meat. Just because we'll see what's selling. Lion meat right here. So yeah, there's currently nothing on the market, and there's, what's that? 70,000 pre-orders for lion's meat. So, once again, if you want to go out and hunt for the lion's meat, or if you're looking at getting into cooking, life skilling is one of those things where you might not be able to buy the ingredients on the market. You might actually have to go get your ingredients. This is where life skilling really comes into play. I know for those of you who do a lot of cooking, a lot of alchemy, we're all out there gathering our own stuff for the most part, just because increased profit, and it changes up the game. Rather than running around in a circle killing mobs for 12, 14, 18, 20 hours a week, you got to break it up, right? Breaking up that monotony. So cooking, when you're in a residence, you can put down these utensils. You see I have advanced cooking utensils, supreme cooking utensils. I have some alchemy utensils here. This is where you do your cooking. You interact with it. This is where all of your recipes are. Most of these are going to be, you could do learned only. I'd like to do recent, but if you haven't bolt unchecked, it's going to show all the things that you can make that you haven't made before. I just do recent. The other thing to keep in mind is that your alchemy and cooking level will determine the amount of ingredients. For instance, if I'm making clear liquid reagent, right? Well, that's not a good example. Let's see. What have I made? Metal solvent. There you go. Metal solvent is one of those things that, it's very often in demand. Well, I make it. I have 1 clear liquid reagent, 4 rough stones, 3 iron shards, and then 2 trace of natures. As you go up, there's a chance that this could actually decrease to only need 3 rough stones. So the higher level you get, the lower of the primary ingredients that you may have a chance to proc. Now, sometimes you might have to put the ingredients in here just to see if it works, and it might fail and you might lose the ingredients. So if you're trying to figure out if you can go down to 3, just put 1, 3, 3, 2 in here and hit create. You're going to do one little cycle, and if it fails, you know you're not high enough level yet. So play around with it. You're going to see general ideas for ingredients for different cooking and alchemy recipes online, but really it's depending on your level. If you're Guru 58 alchemy, you're going to need to spend less raw materials than me at Guru 2. So as far as profitability goes into, alchemy is less profitable than cooking, but both of them, I would say, are highly dependent on demand in the market, right? And specific recipes. Alchemy, if you can make some of the more in-demand droughts, more in-demand foods, you might find that you're making a ton of money. Great. Cooking's the same way, but cooking is easier than alchemy as far as getting the ingredients, so more people cook. So if you guys have any comments on either one of those or want to correct me, I would be more than happy to listen to your comments. The other thing I do want to cover with alchemy is while you're alchemying, it has we'll call it a hidden proc. As you're doing alchemy, you have the chance to get random items in the game. For instance, you might get a golden backpack worth 5 million. Might get black stones. You might get these alchemy stone shards. You might get, a sweet potato, right? You'll find that in your inventory, you'll have random slots of things that just appear as you're doing alchemy. I've never gotten anything crazy expensive. I have gotten like the alchemy stones, the green versions of the alchemy stones before. So always make sure that you have some empty inventory slots when you're doing alchemy. The other thing I'll tell you about is while you're doing alchemy, one of the best things you can proc are, let's see if I can find any, these unknown seeds. These unknown seeds, when you combine them with a truffle mushroom, will make you a truffle seed. Truffle seeds are worth a lot of money. That's why these are worth 18 million a piece, right? I don't even know what you probably. Well, I don't think you can sell truffle mushroom seeds. Yeah, truffle mushroom hypha. Okay, so you can sell them, but if you get those unknown seeds, buy yourself some truffle mushrooms and turn around and plant those in a fence, and I'll cover that when I go through farming. And what the truffle mushrooms are used for is, I believe it's the elixir of sharp detection. I don't actually remember. It doesn't say right here, but I want to say it's sharp detection. One of the main elixirs that people use. That's why those truffle mushrooms are so expensive, because you can't really gather them. So let's see here, detection. Ah, yes, truffle right here. So that gives you crit hit damage plus 20%, and the sharp detection gives you plus 15%. So if you do find yourself with those unknown seeds and you want to plant those and harvest the truffle mushrooms, this might be a way that you could do it, is you could turn around and make elixirs of detection. And as you can see, life skilling can go down a rabbit hole. So And you might find yourself with the ability to make, okay, so yeah, so these sell for $500,000 a piece. The sharp detections sell for over $1 million a piece. So that might actually be a nice revenue stream for somebody. So that is what's nice about alchemy, is you can randomly proc different things while life skilling. So let's see here. What's the next? Like processing. Processing is a necessary evil, right? So processing isn't going to make you a ton of money as far as going out into the woods and gathering this or whatnot, but it will help you take your raw materials in storage and increase their worth. For instance, cedar timber, it's worth 3,300 a piece. We'll round it, right? If you hit L and you chop it, right, you're going to get cedar planks. They're worth 9,000 a piece. Then if you chop the cedar planks, you get cedar plywood, which is worth 63,000 a piece. Processing allows you to sell the items at a higher grade, or you can make trade boxes with them. Trade boxes were very relevant way back when. I don't think they're very relevant right now. And as we're talking, we're just going to look at for a wood workshop. But if you had, I have that cedar plywood in here, right? And if I wanted to make trade goods, I might make these timber crates. And if you see in Heidel here, if I had 5 ash plywood, 5 maple plywood, and a blackstone powder, my worker could make a Balanos timber crate that I could turn around and, then sell. I could take it to a different town. To give you an idea of what they're worth, a Kelfion timber crate right here is worth 101,000. And then if I moved that from Valencia all the way to Land of Morning Light, that same timber crate might be worth $1 million. Back years ago, trade crates, when people used to make 200 or 300 million a month doing them, that was huge money. Nowadays, you can make $1.5 billion silver a night AFK fishing. So until they do a big trade revamp, it's not really worth doing the crates, in my opinion. So for now, you can either use this for furniture crafting for your own residence, or you could just turn them, for doing a little AFK processing by hitting L and go to chopping, or drying your fish for ingredients, or filtering your water for purified water, or grinding, all these processing things. This is where you would increase your profit. Now, one thing I will talk about as far as processing goes is if you are going to process, I would highly recommend you have a processing stone. What this does is you can craft these. As you can see, it says manufacture with 30 Moonlight Opal, 15 gem polishers, 5 Mano stones, and 50 magical shards. I believe there's also a green and blue version of the processing stone as well, but it increases the amount that you can mass process. Okay, so when you're mass processing, if you're going to chop, it right here is the button, and that just means you do more of the item at once. So if I'm just going to mass process, or if I'm going to just harvest my logs right now and chop them, it will do 10 at a time, 10 at a time, 10 at a time, 10 at a time. If I've got the mass processing stone or the processing stone equipped, I might be able to do 300, 400, or 1,000 at a time. So I would highly recommend, just for cleaning out your inventory, increasing profit, the processing stone is definitely something you should look into. So let's go into training. This is relevant because this next month, Pearl Abyss has announced a few changes with training. Training is horses. Everybody likes their horses. The main things to get into with training, the money used to be great with training, but not so much anymore. There's just more and more silver making abilities in the game right now. But training, you could probably, there's such a range, depending on if you're just selling horses for Imperial trading, or versus when you're making coursers, versus if you're making T8, T9, or T10s. You can make anywhere from 300 million up to billions of silver. It's very RNG. What I used to do before fishing was buffed is I used to AFK horse train every night, and I would breed horses to try to get coursers. Coursers can sell for $1 billion to $2 billion a piece. They're T8s with all the skills, and the reason why people like them is because that's how you make T9s and T10s. So right now, with the changes coming up, we'll see if that's going to increase the profit with training. One of the things with training is there's different areas in the game where you can walk up to horses. You don't walk right up to them. You actually have to go to a stable master and get a capturing rope, which I've got on the screen right here. You equip it into your hotbar, so I usually have mine at number 2. You walk up to, like, I don't know, a school bus distance away from the horse, hit number 2, and you're going to have a crosshair that comes on the horse. You left click the horse, you're lassoing the horse, and there's a mini game. The mini game is you walk up to the horse slowly, and if it rears up in the air, you have to hit your space bar and keep tension on the line. And then when the horse stops doing its jumpy thing, you can walk towards it again. And when you get right next to it, you're going to want to take these lumps of raw sugar. These lumps of raw sugar, you actually simply cook raw sugar and I believe it's mineral water, and you put those in your hot bar too, and you feed them the lump of raw sugar until the horse reacts positively to you. Once he reacts positively to you, you can hop on him, ride him to the nearest stable, and claim him as your own. So, horse training, that's how you get yourself a horse. It's not the best income anymore by far. It's not something that I would say, unless you're really interested in getting yourself a T10 horse, I really wouldn't spend a ton of time on it. Um, but, that's how you get a horse. You can Imperial trade them for horse items, and that is how you would level them up, is you would jump on your horse. So mine's right there, for instance. And you can do this passively overnight. So let's say I wanted to make a route. I would right click right here and then set loop. And all night long, my character would ride my horse along this and then back. And then along this and then back. And then when I came back in the morning, hopefully I would have a level 30 horse. Hopefully nobody killed me while I was AFK. And then you could use that horse for breeding or Imperial trading or whatever you wanted to do. So training more if you're just interested in horses, not so much for the money anymore. With trading, I kind of covered it already. The difference too, you can power level it with trash crates, which is, the same method that I covered earlier, making timber crates. You can take things like iron ore or just anything that you have a large, abundant amount of, and making crates in any of the workshops with your workers, and then just taking them to the farthest point and selling them will power level trading. But right now, the thing I wanted to cover the most about trading is, ever since Land of the Morning Light, up here next to Yukjo Street is the Seoul. Seoul now has the Royal Workshops, which, as you can see, I only have one going right now. I gotta feed my workers or do whatever. No workers selected. Okay, I haven't selected my workers. So this is basically free money. The Royal Workshop takes 5 CP to unlock, and then you need to go talk to the different NPCs and storage managers around here. As your worker does whatever, you're going to get, let's see, before I talk out of turn, you Joe, is going to get these morning's gratitude token. Use those tokens to unlock the workshops, and these make trade items that are worth, hundreds of millions of silver apiece. So if you're not going to do anything else with trading, I would suggest getting 5 CP, unlocking it up here, getting some of the lodging around here to get, 2, 4, 6, 8 workers, and just start working them. Like if you go to the hall here, these items are worth, 200,000 a piece, but then there's some of these items in here that when you give them to an NPC, they're worth, 98 million a piece. So this is basically just free money, free passive money that I would highly recommend unlocking, if not for any other reason, just to make passive income with trading until they revamp trading. So that's the only other thing I wanted to cover with trading. Let's go to farming. So farming, the first thing you have to do is you have to have some CP, and you have to rent a fence. Renting a fence, I have some in this inventory right here, because there are pearl fences. Right here, Sturdy Fence of Abundance. Those, if you buy the pearl ones, do not take CP. But you would take these fences, you would find a spot outside of town, alongside of the road, somewhere along where your base of operations is. Let's say, can't do it in the garden here, but I could probably, if I needed to, I can plant a fence right here. And you can plant anything in the game, right? This is where you would plant your truffles. You can even plant these fire flake flower seeds that I got right here. If you want to grow something, you could just buy the hypha for mushrooms or seed for plants off the marketplace. And there's a few things that affect it. So every plant in the game has a different climate it likes, and just for illustrative points here, let's just grab one of these fences here. One. So you're going to want to go in your inventory, you right click it, and it's going to open this, and I'm going to put it right here. So when you interact with the fence, it's going to have this screen here, and you're going to look at, your humidity, your temperature. That affects all of the things you're growing, right? So if I wanted to plant this fresh tulip seed, I would just click on it, and then I would put it right here. Now you see how the groundwater is negative 0.73%, the humidity is 1%. That's all going to affect the time it takes for this plant to grow. Fireflake, they might require difference, and that all is going to affect, like, if I planted carrots, it might take an hour before I can harvest them. But if I go out in Altanova or Medea or Valencia and plant the same carrot, it might take me 6 hours. So depending on what you want to grow, you might actually want to play around with where you place your fence. For me, I was always very lazy, still am. I'm based in Hydel. My fences were around Hydel. Whenever I grew stuff, I didn't care. It got planted in Hydel. If it took 12 hours, it took 12 hours. If it took 20 minutes, it took 20 minutes. The benefits of farming there's a few benefits to this. A, it's a great way to get rare materials. So if you're having trouble, providing alchemy or cooking ingredients for yourself, you can actually grow them. The other thing is you can breed the plants when they are mature, and you can get more seeds. So like, for instance, what I used to do is I would have, let's say you have 10 plants growing in a fence. I would breed the plants until I had enough to replant the entire fence, and then I would harvest the rest. So I'm getting the fruit of the plant as well as more plants, so I don't have to keep buying seeds. It's also a great way to get sharps. So while the plant is growing, it's going to get infested with bugs, or you're going to need to prune it. And it's all kind of like a little mini game. You really don't have to do anything but just interact with the plant. And every time you do that, you get the chance to proc sharps. It used to be sharps were really rare. You can get sharps a lot easier doing sap collecting or hunting or other things right now. But if you're just looking for something to kind of mend, your little garden, and I hate to say it, but farming's become an RP thing as opposed to, unless you need specific ingredients. It's kind of obsolete for passive income. It used to be great for I don't know. Truffles have brought it back a little bit because, hey, that's the only way to grow those truffles if you need those truffles. But other than that, you're not going to make a ton of money doing this. It's going to be a way for you to supply your own ingredients. You can assign workers to do the pruning for you, which will increase the speed in which the plant matures, but then you lose out on the opportunity to get the sharps. So if you're interested in farming, you got to rent a fence, and then you could just plant whatever you want. So that brings us to the ocean life skills, sailing and bartering. Sailing is one of those things where you're either going to love going on a boat or you're not going to like it at all. It is its own thing in BDO. I would almost go out on a limb and say that if you really enjoy the ocean content, you're going to be playing a different game than those who don't. You have things like sea monster hunting that give, guild items and give crafting items for making boats. Some guilds do payouts with their sea monster items. It's going to be, there are opportunities. I'm not going to say there's a lot of people that do it, but there are opportunities for PvP on the boats, specifically during events. So if you enjoy that, you can also go out there and start hunting people that are AFK bartering. I know some people do that, and that's great content for them. There's daily sailing quests and weekly sailing quests that groups of people to get together and do them as a group. There's Vel, which is the giant octopus thingy boss that's out in the middle of the ocean, and there's Khan. Khan is kind of a guild boss that spawns on Okila's Eye. These are all ocean content things that, you're not going to make anywhere near the money that you would make grinding or anything. But, making a couple hundred million per hour playing around in a boat, that might be your bag. And if you enjoy doing that, by all means. As far as bartering goes, bartering recently was buffed. So, this is actually a viable life skill now. I have some people in my guild alone who have told me they're making upwards of like 750 to a billion an hour if they do the Magoria items, which are the deep sea barter items. The thing to keep in mind though is you're limited by parley. Similar to how you're limited with energy up here on the top of your screen for life skilling. So every time you do a life skill, it's going to take energy, and there are things to recharge your energy. But bartering takes parley, so I believe most people can get 3 refreshes of bartering a day. So bartering is not a life skill that you're going to be able to do for like, a 24-hour marathon like some people have done gathering weeds, but you can use it to break up the other activities in the game. I know a lot of people that will Netflix and chill while doing bartering. They're watching a movie. You're literally jumping on a boat and auto-pathing and taking items from island to island. So you set your destination, you autopath. Set your destination, autopath. It is pretty much the predominant way to get crow coins, and crow coins are an alternate currency. They're listed right here. They're used for buying ocean content stuff like the Panoxen, which is the highest tier boat, the Evenrus Null, which is the thing that allows you to double boost on your boat, as well as other items. You can get a Khan's Heart and things like that from crow coins. So if you are interested in getting crow coins, you kind of have to barter. The nice thing is, too, that while you're bartering, you can get a special barter, which it procs more the more barters you have, but it's kind of RNG. And the special barter can give you anything from a couple 100 million silver upwards of getting a Vel's Heart, which is, what's Vel's Heart? 18 billion now? 15 billion. So, bartering is one of those things where you might decide, hey, I want to grind from crow coins. I want something to break up my day. If you want to try hard, you can make a billion per hour doing bartering. The different boats that you're going to want to, and you can actually craft all of the boats, but let's say, for instance, just for informational purposes, you wanted to buy them. The Advance is the best boat for bartering. It has the most amount of weight and things like that. The Balanced is a balanced boat. The Volante and Valor are going to be your 2 sailing PvE boats. There are very large numbers of people that will say one are better than the other, but the differences are the Volante is the faster and the Valor does the most damage. So if you want to be a kite, you want the Volante. If you want to do DPS, you want to do the Valor. So those are the 4 cracks. There are guides online that talk about making your own boat. It is a long and arduous task to make a Karak. That is why they are 40 billion, and I don't think that's enough. But if you want to make your own boat for sailing or bartering, you start off and you can craft the things in Portaferia, and you just work your way right up. There are people that make galleasses and frigates and sailboats and things like that, so I'm sure there's spreadsheets galore. But overall, bartering, you can make a decent amount of silver doing nowadays. So I would recommend, if anybody is interested in ocean content, that would be huge. So covering the life skills, just to do a recap, if you're in it for the money, you can make as much money gathering as you can doing PvE in even some of the best spots if your mastery's high enough, right? With me, if I'm out here, let's say Hoe Gathering with a 1730 mastery, I'm probably going to average 4 to 500 million an hour. If like there's somebody in my guild that has 2800 mastery, he routinely makes over $1 billion silver an hour. No questions asked. Sometimes higher than that. And that's going to be coming from all of your extra procs, your everlasting herbs, your sharps, your wild grass, your black gems, things like that. So if you're in it for the money, I would highly suggest you AFK fish every night. I would highly suggest anybody try hunting. It's fun, it's relaxing. I really enjoy hunting. Gathering is a great way to make silver. And as far as the other life skills, besides bartering, a lot of those other ones hopefully will get some new content because they're kind of falling by the wayside. We'll call them utilitarian things in the game as opposed to actually income things. So that kind of gives a breakdown of all the life skills. If any of you guys have any questions, comments, if I missed something, if I got something right, if I got something wrong, shoot me a comment. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, and I really appreciate your time.